Imagine a world spinning silently through the cosmos. A blue marble suspended in the infinite darkness, teeming with life in every conceivable form. But in this world, one species never emerged. One evolutionary branch never sprouted. Humanity never existed. This is not a world after humans, it is a world that never knew us at all. A planet where the course of evolution took a different turn some 7 million years ago, where our primate ancestors never descended from the trees with quite the same ambitions, where consciousness and civilization never sparked in the way that led to us. What would such an Earth look like? How would nature, unrestrained by human influence, have shaped the continents, the forests, the very air we breathe? Join us on a journey through a parallel Earth, familiar yet profoundly alien, where the planet's story unfolded without humanity's guiding hand. We begin our journey in North America, but not the North America of strip malls and highways. This continent remains the domain of giants, creatures that in our world vanished 12,000 years ago, likely hunted to extinction by our ancestors. Here, vast herds of woolly mammoths thunder across prairies that stretch unbroken from the Arctic to Mexico. Their numbers are staggering, perhaps 50 million strong, their tusks carving paths through the landscape, their dung fertilizing grasslands that support an ecosystem of breathtaking complexity. The Colombian mammoth, even larger than its woolly cousin, dominates the southern reaches. Standing 14 feet at the shoulder, these titans shape the very land itself. They topple trees, creating clearings where new vegetation flourishes. They dig for water in dry seasons, creating waterholes that sustain dozens of other species. They are, in every sense, ecosystem engineers. But the mammoths are not alone. The short-faced bear, the largest land predator North America has ever known, patrols these grasslands. Standing 12 feet tall on its hind legs, it fears nothing. Its long limbs allow it to run down prey across vast distances, a pursuit predator of nightmarish efficiency. In the shadows of the forest edge lurk the true apex predators, saber-toothed cats and American lions. The saber-tooth, with its 7-inch canines, specializes in taking down megafauna. Its bite, though weaker than a modern lion's, is precisely adapted for slicing through thick hide and windpipe. The American lion, 25% larger than its African cousin, hunts and prides across the open plains. In the forests of what we might call California, creatures even stranger make their home. Giant ground sloths, some as large as elephants, rear up on their hind legs to browse on branches 20 feet above the forest floor. With their enormous curved claws and powerful arms, they pull down entire branches, stripping them of leaves with lips adapted to avoid the toughest thorns. These gentle giants have no natural enemies as adults. Their size alone protects them. They move slowly through the forest, but they are not lazy, they are efficient, conserving energy in a way that has made them successful for millions of years. Without human hunting pressure, without habitat destruction, these Ice Age megafauna never faced their extinction bottleneck. They adapted to the warming climate, their populations waxed and waned with climatic shifts, but they persisted. The great American interchange of species between North and South America continued to shuffle the deck of biodiversity. Cross the Atlantic to Europe, but forget any landscape you might recognize. Without humans to clear forests for agriculture, Europe is almost entirely forested from coast to coast. The Mediterranean basin, which in our world became deforested thousands of years ago, here remains covered in dense oak and pine forests. The European straight-tusked elephant, even larger than the woolly mammoth, browses through these ancient woods. These forests are darker, denser, older than any woodland that has existed in Europe for millennia in our timeline. They are what ecologists call primordial forest, woods that have never known the axe, never been cleared, never been managed. Through these shadowed glades move aurochs, the wild ancestors of cattle, standing 6 feet at the shoulder with horns spanning 3 feet. They are formidable creatures, aggressive when challenged, living in small herds in forest clearings. Cave lions, European jaguars, and the giant hyena stalk the forest shadows, maintaining the predator-prey balance that has existed for hundreds of thousands of years. Asia, already the most biodiverse continent in our world, is even more spectacular without human impact. The island of Java supports not just one or two species of elephant, but 4 distinct genera, Elephas, Stegodon, Paleoloxodon, and even relict populations of mammoths in the northern reaches. The giant panda, never reduced to a few hundred individuals clinging to existence in tiny mountain reserves, ranges across vast tracts of bamboo forest from Myanmar to eastern China. Their populations number in the hundreds of thousands, their black and white forms a common sight in the montane forests. Giant orangutans, Gigantopithecus, the largest primates ever to exist, still lumber through the forests of Southeast Asia. Standing 10 feet tall and weighing over 1,000 pounds, these massive apes are gentle vegetarians, feeding on bamboo and fruit in the dense jungle canopy. They are a reminder of what the primate lineage could produce when environmental pressures favored size and strength. Beneath the waves, the oceans tell perhaps the most dramatic story of this alternate Earth. Without industrial fishing, without plastic pollution, without the greenhouse gases that acidify seawater, the oceans have maintained a productivity that we can barely imagine. Fish schools darken the water like storm clouds. Cod in the North Atlantic form aggregations so dense that early explorers in our world claimed you could walk across the water on their backs. Here, such abundance is simply the norm. Every species that we hunted to the brink of extinction, or beyond, thrives in numbers that would seem fantastical to us. The great whales rule these oceans as they have for millions of years. Blue whales, the largest animals ever to exist on Earth, cruise through polar waters in populations exceeding 500,000. Right whales, so named in our world because they were the right whales to hunt, here number in the hundreds of thousands. They fear only the orca, the ocean's apex predator, whose intelligence and social complexity has made them successful for millions of years. But there's something else in these waters, species that never evolved because they didn't need to. In our world, the evolution of marine mammals was partly shaped by human presence and activity. Here, certain ecological niches remain occupied by older forms. Ancient pinnipeds that went extinct in our timeline persist. Primitive cetaceans that specialized in certain hunting strategies never faced the competitive pressures that eliminated them in our world. The great river systems of Earth flow unobstructed from source to sea. The Amazon, already mighty in our world, is even more vast here, its discharge into the Atlantic 20% greater without deforestation to reduce rainfall. Its floodplain forests are the single most biodiverse ecosystem on the planet, supporting species we've never dreamed of. North American rivers run thick with salmon during spawning season, perhaps 400 million fish making their way upstream, compared to the few million in our most optimistic conservation scenarios. These salmon runs fertilize the forests, their bodies bringing marine nutrients deep into the interior of continents. Bears, eagles, wolves, and 1,000 other species time their breeding cycles to this annual abundance. The Nile, Congo, Yangtze, Ganges, every great river remains wild, flooding and receding with the seasons, creating vast wetlands that serve as the nurseries of biodiversity. Without dams, without channelization, without pollution, these waterways support fish populations orders of magnitude larger than anything in our modern world. Without humanity, even the very air is different. The atmosphere contains approximately 280 parts per million of carbon dioxide, far less than the 420 parts per million in our world today. This might seem like a small difference, but it has profound implications. Global temperatures are approximately 1 degree Celsius cooler. Sea levels are slightly lower. The Arctic ice cap, though still subject to natural cyclical changes, is substantially more robust. Glaciers that have retreated in our world maintain their historic extents. But the differences go beyond carbon. Without industrial pollutants, without the aerosols and particulates of combustion, the atmosphere is clearer. Visibility is extraordinary. The air over continents, particularly in what we would call the Northern Hemisphere, carries the scent of forest and prairie rather than the chemical signatures of industry. Fire, one of humanity's first tools, still plays its role in this world, but only as nature intended. Lightning-strike wildfires sweep across grasslands and forests in regular cycles. These fires are more frequent than in our managed world, but less catastrophic. Without decades of fire suppression creating unnaturally dense fuel loads, fires burn at lower intensity, clearing understory while leaving mature trees intact. Many plant species have evolved specifically for these fire cycles. Their seeds require the heat of fire to germinate. Animals have learned the patterns, migrating away from fire zones and returning quickly afterward to feast on the new growth that emerges. The great grasslands of Earth, the prairies of North America, the steppes of Asia, the savannas of Africa, are maintained by this natural fire cycle. Without it, they would become forests. With it, they support the vast herds of grazing megafauna that define the terrestrial ecosystems of this world. On islands across the globe, evolution has taken fascinating turns. Without human colonization, island ecosystems remain intact, their endemic species thriving. The moa of New Zealand, some species standing 12 feet tall, still roam the forests. The Haast's eagle, the largest eagle ever to exist with a 10-foot wingspan, still hunts them. Madagascar supports a full complement of giant lemurs, some as large as gorillas. These primates, isolated from mainland competition for millions of years, evolved into ecological niches that primates elsewhere never filled. They are the island's megafauna, its browsers and grazers, playing the roles that in our world only went to mammals with hooves. The Caribbean islands, the Mediterranean, the islands of Southeast Asia, each maintains its unique fauna. Giant tortoises, found only on a handful of islands in our world, here inhabit dozens of island chains. Flightless birds, highly vulnerable to introduced predators in our timeline, thrive on islands where they evolved without ground-dwelling predators. Australia tells perhaps the most dramatic story of all. Here, marsupial megafauna that vanished shortly after human arrival in our world continue to thrive. The diprotodon, the largest marsupial ever to exist, a wombat-like creature the size of a hippopotamus, browses on vegetation across the continent. Giant short-faced kangaroos, standing 7 feet tall, bound across the outback. The marsupial lion, one of the most specialized predators ever to evolve, hunts from the trees, its bolt-cutting teeth capable of shearing through bone. These creatures, so different from the mammals of other continents, remind us that evolution can solve the same problems, herbivory, predation, survival, in radically different ways. The Aboriginal peoples never arrived in this timeline, so Australia's fauna never faced the hunting pressure and fire management practices that transformed the continent in our world. The rainforests of the north are more extensive. The inland deserts, while still dry, support more vegetation thanks to the megafaunal herbivores that distribute seeds and create water sources. While megafauna capture our imagination, the real biodiversity explosion occurs at smaller scales. Insects, in particular, have diversified beyond our wildest estimations. Scientists in our world estimate there may be 5 million insect species. In this world without habitat destruction, without pesticides, that number might be 10 million or more. Butterfly swarms in tropical regions can contain 1 billion individuals, representing thousands of species. The murmuration-like movements of these insects create patterns in the air that last for hours. Birds have evolved specifically to feed during these mass movements, timing their breeding cycles to the insect eruptions. In the soil, in the leaf litter, in every microhabitat, life has diversified without limit. Fungi, bacteria, nematodes, mites, the invisible majority of Earth's biodiversity has evolved relationships of stunning complexity. These are the true engines of the ecosystem, breaking down matter, cycling nutrients, creating the soil in which forests grow. Without humanity, has intelligence disappeared from Earth? Not at all. In fact, without one species monopolizing the cognitive niche, several lineages have explored it in different ways. Primates remain highly intelligent, particularly the great apes. Chimpanzees, bonobos, orangutans, and gorillas all display tool use, self-awareness, complex social structures, and even primitive forms of culture passed down through generations. Without competition from humans, these species have spread more widely, diversified more extensively. But intelligence has emerged elsewhere too. Corvids, crows, ravens, jays, have continued their evolutionary trend toward greater cognitive complexity. Some species display problem-solving abilities that rival primates, use tools not just for immediate needs but create them for future use, and teach these skills to their young in what can only be called cultural transmission. In the oceans, cephalopods, octopi, squid, cuttlefish, have continued their own remarkable cognitive evolution. These creatures, with nervous systems fundamentally different from vertebrates, have arrived at intelligence through an entirely separate evolutionary path. Their ability to change color and texture in milliseconds represents a form of communication so rapid and complex that it resembles a visual language. But nowhere on this earth has intelligence led to civilization. No creature has harnessed fire, developed agriculture, created written language, or built cities. The cognitive leap that led to human civilization, whatever that spark was, never occurred in this timeline. This raises profound questions. Was human civilization inevitable given enough time? Or does it require a specific combination of factors that might be vanishingly rare? Intelligence alone is clearly not enough. Many species in this world are highly intelligent without becoming technological. Perhaps it requires a specific type of social structure, or a particular environmental pressure, or simply a fortunate mutation that predisposed one species to symbolic thinking and abstract reasoning. Whatever the cause, in this world, it never happened. The locations where great human cities might have risen, the fertile river valleys, the protected harbors, the strategic mountain passes, remain wild. The Thames flows through unbroken forest. The Nile Delta is a vast, biologically productive wetland. The site of what might have been Manhattan is a hardwood forest extending to the water's edge. Perhaps the most spectacular difference in this world is the scale of migration. Without barriers, without hunting pressure, without habitat fragmentation, the great seasonal movements of animals occur on a scale that defies description. In spring, caribou migrations across the Arctic tundra number not in the hundreds of thousands, but in the millions. Their hoofbeats create a sound like distant thunder that can be heard for miles. Following them are wolf packs, bears emerging from hibernation, and countless scavengers waiting to feast on the weak and the unlucky. Bird migrations darken the skies. Passenger pigeons, extinct in our world, number in the billions. Their flocks take hours to pass overhead, their droppings fertilizing forests along their routes. Arctic terns still make their pole-to-pole migration, but in numbers orders of magnitude larger. In the oceans, whale migrations follow ancient pathways never interrupted by shipping lanes or sonar. Salmon runs fill rivers so completely that predators need only stand in the current with open mouths to feed. Wildebeest in Africa, though humans never existed, the continent's megafauna is no less impressive, move in herds that take days to pass a single point. The relationship between predator and prey has driven evolution for hundreds of millions of years, and in this world, it continues uninterrupted. Every adaptation, every counter-adaptation, has been shaped by this eternal dance. Prey animals have evolved extraordinary senses, hearing that can detect a predator's heartbeat, eyes that can spot movement at impossible distances, group communication systems that spread alarm almost instantaneously. Herbivore herds move as collective organisms, the many becoming one in their coordinated defense. Predators, in turn, have evolved patience, strategy, and cooperation. Pack hunters coordinate their movements with a precision that suggests not just instinct, but planning. Ambush predators perfect their camouflage and their timing over lifetimes of learning. But it's not a war, it's a balance. Predators take the weak, the sick, the old, strengthening the gene pool of their prey. Prey animals evolve defenses that make only the most skilled predators successful, ensuring that only the best hunters pass on their genes. It is harsh, but it is the mechanism that has created all the beauty and diversity of life on Earth. If we could fast forward this world another million years, what might we see? Evolution never stops, never reaches a final form. The species that dominate this world now are not endpoints but waypoints in an ongoing journey. Perhaps some mammal lineage will take to the air in a more sustained way than bats, gliding mammals might evolve true powered flight. Perhaps some land predator will fully readapt to ocean life, as whales did tens of millions of years ago, creating a new lineage of marine hunters. Perhaps intelligence will continue to evolve in multiple lineages. Maybe the cognitive arms race between predator and prey will drive both toward greater awareness, greater planning ability, greater social complexity. Could this world eventually produce a civilization, just one that emerges from a different lineage? A civilization of octopi, of elephants, of corvids? Or perhaps intelligence itself is not as inevitably favored by evolution as we assume. Perhaps in the absence of the specific pressures that shaped human evolution, cognition will remain at the level we see now, sophisticated but not technological, indefinitely. Why imagine this world? What can this thought experiment teach us? First, it reveals the incredible impact our species has had. Every landscape we see in our daily lives has been shaped by humanity. Every ecosystem has been altered. We are, whether we intended to be or not, the dominant force shaping life on Earth. Seeing what might have been helps us understand the magnitude of what we've done. Second, it shows us what we've lost. The passenger pigeon, the mammoth, the aurochs, the moa, these aren't just names in books. They were essential parts of functioning ecosystems, creatures that shaped their worlds just as we shape ours. Their absence has left holes in nature that may never be filled. Third, it offers hope. If Earth without humans could support such incredible biodiversity, such vast populations of megafauna, such healthy oceans and forests, then perhaps our planet has a greater capacity for recovery than we sometimes believe. If we can step back, if we can make space for other species, perhaps we can restore some of what was lost. This world we've explored exists only in imagination, a path not taken in the branching tree of cosmic possibilities. Roughly 7 million years ago, the lineage that would lead to humans diverged from our closest primate relatives. In our world, that lineage led through Australopithecus, Homo habilis, Homo erectus, and eventually to us, to art and agriculture, science and cities, to all the beauty and horror of human history. But it could have been otherwise. A different mutation, a different environmental pressure, a different random event in our deep evolutionary past, and the cognitive revolution that led to humanity might never have occurred. That alternative timeline is what we've explored today. In that world, Earth continues its ancient patterns, birth and death, predator and prey, evolution and extinction, the endless cycle that has sustained life for billions of years. It is not better or worse than our world. It is simply different. It is Earth as it might have been, a planet of endless wilderness where the only limits to life are the carrying capacity of ecosystems and the creative power of evolution. From space, this alternate Earth looks similar to ours, the same blue oceans, the same green continents, the same swirling clouds. But look closer, and the differences emerge. No lights mark cities at night. No straight lines of roads cut across continents. No dams block rivers. No ship's trail wakes across the ocean. It is a planet wholly natural, wholly wild, a planet where the only intelligence is local and temporary, where no species has stepped outside the cycle of predator and prey to become something unprecedented. Is this Earth better than ours? That question assumes nature has preferences, that evolution has goals. It does not. This world is simply what might have been, an alternative history where one species among millions never rose to dominance. But perhaps there is value in imagining it. In our world, we face unprecedented challenges. Climate change, biodiversity loss, ecosystem collapse, these are the consequences of our success as a species. By imagining Earth without us, we can better understand Earth with us, and perhaps find ways to be better stewards of the only home we have. For we are not separate from nature. We are part of it, a part that has gained unprecedented power, yes, but still fundamentally connected to every other form of life on this planet. The mammoths and moas cannot return. The passenger pigeons will not darken our skies again. But perhaps we can ensure that the species that remain, the elephants and eagles, the whales and wolves, will continue to share this planet with us. Perhaps we can build a world that honors both our achievements and our responsibilities, a world where human civilization and wild nature coexist. That world won't be the purely natural Earth we've explored today, but it might be something equally valuable, a world where intelligence and compassion work together to preserve the diversity and beauty of life. As we look up at the stars from our world, we might wonder if somewhere in the cosmos, there are planets where the story unfolded differently. Where intelligence emerged but took a different path. Where technological civilization never developed, or developed in ways we cannot imagine. Where Earth-like planets support Earth-like life, but with variations we can barely conceive. Our Earth, the Earth that exists, is precious beyond measure, not despite human presence, but including it. We are the species that can imagine alternatives, that can learn from thought experiments like this one, that can choose, perhaps uniquely in the history of life on this planet, to change our course based on knowledge and foresight rather than just on immediate selective pressure. This has been Earth Unleashed, a world without humans. Thank you for joining us on this journey through what might have been. May it inspire us to better protect what is.